Trance. Everybody thinks that it's something that is done to you. Actually, there's a lot more to it than that because we all have minds and we all have brains. Well, that could be a leading statement. But anyway, before we go into a trance, let's get everybody and tell us who you are and where you come from. Willie?
Thanks, Leslie. My name is Willie Nicol. I come from Scotland, more specifically the town of Troon, famous for its golf courses. I'm a former police officer, corporate security manager, and now a mindset coach, helping people with their personal growth or shedding what they don't want in their lives anymore.
Jennifer.
Hi, I am Jennifer Jakowski. I am a registered psychotherapist, certified Canadian counselor, intuitive life coach. I am in Canada, and I work with clients to bring them on their journey back to their authentic selves.
Angela.
Hi, I'm Angela and I am based in Scotland as well. And I am a health kinesiologist, and that means I work with clients to work out what's going on for them and actually getting them to ask their body the questions to figure out what's going on and clearing out all the rubbish to help them feel better, be better, and do better.
This leads us straight into what we're going to be talking about. I'm Leslie Marsh, and I am a hypnotherapist and NLP practitioner, as well as many other things that deal with trance. Because I do shamanic stuff, and that takes us a little bit further back in the trance and dental kind of situation that we might be talking about now. The thing about trance is we all do it all the time. We're just not aware that we're doing it because, I don't know, in Scotland we call it going into a dwam. It's a daydream, just kind of, I used to do it a lot at school, sitting at my desk, staring at the window, completely obliterating anything around me, so that even when the teacher was screaming at me, it would take a duster from a blackboard swinging past my ear for me to actually realise that they were talking to me. So, daydreams and dwams, trances, can be very powerful, can't they, Willie?
Indeed, the dwam thing, the dream, the daydream, yes, I think, a peculiarly Scottish word. And I'm always amused when people don't understand what hypnotherapy and trance is all about. First of all, hypnosis has been around for a long, long time. And it's not the stage hypnosis we see where people run about thinking they're a chicken or biting into an onion, believing it to be an apple. That's stage hypnosis. Hypnosis or hypnotherapy, as the name suggests, is the use of hypnosis for a therapeutic outcome, many of which can be achieved by trance. And I'm going to do a wee bit of play words here. Trance can lead to transformation. While in a trance-like state, things can change, and sometimes we don't know how it works or why it works. I know for sure that it does work, having experienced it as a young man when my dad passed away suddenly. And rather than give me medication, the doctor said, go to a hypnotherapist, who happened to be her husband, by the way, but that's besides the point. And I said, look, I'm a big rough, tough copper. I play rugby. That's a load of nonsense. So because I respected the doctor, I went to the hypnotherapist and had hypnotherapy, and it was absolutely amazing. 2 sessions of that, and I was a changed man. I'd gone from being like the Incredible Hulk, very, very angry and moody, to being a reasonably placid guy again. So I knew that it worked. When I decided to look at coaching, I thought I'd give it a try. So I trained in hypnotherapy, which I've used to great effect on people for a whole variety of things. So trance is all around us, as they say. You can be watching a movie and be oblivious to everything else, like Leslie and our teacher, or you can be driving, leave the house and reach a destination and realise that you can't really remember the journey because you were a kind of autopilot. So I'll say no more about trance and hypnotherapy. Other than that, it's a very good thing.
Oh, I love it. I always like being in a trance. What about you, Jennifer?
Absolutely, absolutely. In my line of work, I talk often with clients about dissociative states and how some of them are actually really beneficial for us, while others can be a little more complicated. But that right highway hypnosis, as they call it, being in, when we're doing something and we're in the zone, right? All of those things are those trance like moments. And it's beautiful because we're able to step into a naturally focused state of consciousness. And so, Willie, you're talking about like the stage trance, and it's because we become more open to guidance or suggestion during this time. But that also means that we're more open to inner exploration and we're able to heal and make changes on a deeper level when we're able to really have a more concrete connection with our subconscious. And that's what this allows us to do.
There's a lot of it goes about. There's a lot of, oh, are you going to make me find my inner chicken situation that goes on as soon as you say anything about hypnotherapy? And my retort is usually, only if you really want to. And that's it, isn't it, Angela?
100%. And I think it is that point of you only go as far as you're comfortable to go, as you want to go. And nothing about hypnotherapy is about going against your normal inclinations, your normal comfort zone to a certain extent. And I know comfort zone is not the right way to put it, but you're not going to go beyond where is safe. And if you're not ready to go there and you're not prepared to go there, you won't. So no matter what practitioner works with you, as long as they're ethically working and trained, they're not going to push you beyond your boundaries and they're not going to push you to a point where you don't feel safe. And I think from that perspective, this walking like a chicken or whatever other thing they may get you to do on a stage is definitely not what happens in an actual treatment.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, though, the stage hypnotists are actually stacking their own deck before we don't get to see that part. When the audience are coming in and they're settling everybody down and they're doing their warm up, they're actually doing certain tests on the audience to find out which ones are most suggestive. And people can be suggestive or non suggestive, depends on how you are. I think the statistics are something like only 20% of the population are somnambulistic, which means when you say go to sleep, they will go to sleep. The other rest of them, the 80%, are sitting there going, yeah, right, okay. But that's it. This is why a lot of people do not believe that hypnosis works for them and will brush it away. Another part of it is perhaps the fact that it's all got to do with that strange, weird thing, the balance between the conscious and the unconscious mind. Because, as we know, and I'm going to steal it. I usually just steal it anyway. The whole thing about the unconscious mind is it has a prime directive, like Star Trek. It will not allow anything to happen that you are not totally, as like Angela was saying, is that you are not totally in line with, which is why a lot of the time we keep repeating patterns of behaviour that are not good for us because we made contracts way, way back when we weren't old enough or realising what was going on. We got hurt, we got frightened, something happened and a thought went through our head and our conscious mind went, I have that, I will make sure that that never happens to you again, so you'll run this behaviour.
Yeah, the prime directive of the unconscious mind is to keep you safe. So if it sees anything that's vaguely threatening, it will look through a Rolodex of responses and say, yeah, this is what we do in this particular situation, whether it's good for you or not. Right? This is what we're accustomed to doing. So your unconscious mind, for a very good reason, is there to make you safe, right? Keep you safe. Right? If that process is hiding something that is not beneficial to you, we have to get into it and say, well, okay, we need to change this. So hypnosis is a method of relaxing to the point where the unconscious mind, let's call it the bouncer at the door of a club, right? It's there to say, no, you're not getting in. That good thought, you're not getting in. Or that therapeutic thing you're going to do, you're not getting in. If you relax to a particular point where the unconscious mind says, well, I really don't care now, and you can get beyond it and into whatever it is that's holding you back or causing you pain or anything you're struggling with. So it's just a mechanism. The clue's in the name. Hypnotherapy, the therapeutic use of hypnosis for a beneficial outcome. And who wouldn't want that?
Oh, anybody who thinks that they're going to have their will taken away from them and they're going to be made to do something they really didn't want to do.
But those are the people that are not likely to come and see us.
Yes,
Those people that are not open to having work done on them. And so my experience and my introduction to hypnotherapy was possibly quite different, is that I met with someone and we were having a conversation. All of a sudden, this person had decided that I needed work and this is what the session was going to be. And it was very much a case of along the lines of where they wanted it to go. And rightly or wrongly, I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a try. I've never experienced hypnotherapy before. I'm going to go and experience it. And it wasn't a good experience. The language used wasn't the right language for me to work. And every 5 minutes or so, something would be said and it would snap me straight back out of whatever state I was almost into, because it wasn't in line with me. It wasn't in line where I wanted to go. And actually, I think it was using a lot of predetermined processes. Now, whether that was that individual practitioner or whether that was the training that person had, I'm not sure. But it was also that I hadn't gone into it thinking, I want this to work and I want to work on this thing. So it could have been a whole catalogue of things that just meant that situation was not going to work. So I think from that perspective, you've got to want it to work. And you've got to be open to the change, exactly as you were saying, Willie. It's sending the bouncer off for a tea break so you can get in that door. And if the bouncer's really saying, I'm not having a tea break, I'm staying put, you're not going to get any work done. So you've got to be open to wanting to change and open to understanding that this is going to benefit you. Otherwise, you're wasting your time, you're wasting the practitioner's time, and it's really not going to benefit anybody.
Absolutely. It's so interesting. One of the first things I remember from the training that I did with it was the instructor saying, all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. You're just guiding a process, but the person is deciding whether or not they're going to go there. And I loved that because it took away that pressure of, I have to do all of it. And it was wonderful. And so being on the other side of it, because I've had it done too through different sessions. And I love that, it is about finding the right fit, finding the right connection so that the journey that you go on is the correct journey for you. And then you're able to allow yourself to go inward and to do the work. And our role is really to just guide that based on what you want to do, right? What is the goal? What is the thing you want to work on? And it's like, here we're the travel guide going, okay, you want to do that? Okay, so we're going to go over here now. You go ahead in and you go over there now. Right? And it's like, okay, we're doing that. Okay, now you want to go here? Okay, we're going to go over here now. Right. But doing that in a certain way with a certain tone and cadence that allows for you to stay in that state within the subconscious mind.
Yeah, it's
I think, as you're
very
saying
much
there
as
as
a
well,
dance.
Jennifer, it's that aspect that it's the right person to work with you, but it's also the right time. So it might be today's not the right time to work with Willie, but tomorrow might be. And because you never know what's going to shift, you never know what's coming up. And I think it is that way, that if you get a feel for someone that you think, I do want to work with them, but it doesn't feel right just now, don't write it off completely. Keep their card or keep their website listed somewhere. So when you're ready for it, and it will pop back into your awareness, you can then say, right, okay, now's the time, and I'm going to go and talk to that person.
Yeah, the thing is as well though that you can be. It's a bit like going to a restaurant, ordering lasagna, and getting a bowl of rice because
Okay.
the guy who's in the kitchen has decided that that's what's going to happen today. You're talking about the practitioner who's not speaking your language, and we really have to speak the language of the person that we're talking to. And it's a case of some of us are really visual, so you can say, you see what I mean, and looking at it this way, kind of thing. So you're actually already putting your key in the lock by using the terms that they use to describe life in general. Some people are auditorily, you know, they really like sound. A lot of the time it's because they've got like the audio running in their head all the time, and that's what we want to turn around and say, wind the dial down and see what happens. And then all those thoughts will kind of go breaking away, and you'll be able to go to sleep at night. Instead of sitting there as soon as your head hits the pillow and all this kind of dialogue starts coming in about everything that you thought of that day, everything anybody said, how you could have done it differently, how anything, how anybody gets to sleep with that going on, I have no idea at all. Because basically that is one of the biggest things that we can do, is we can help people with their language change their minds. Which is a bit like magic. But then again, it's words, it's language, and that's why it's called spelling.
Aha. Good point.
It's witchcraft.
The language, yeah, is very important as a practitioner. Right? Dare I say you get the same wavelength as the client or whatever. If they're visual, does that look good? Can you see what I'm saying? Blah blah blah. Or can you hear what I'm saying? How does that sound? And so on and so forth. But as Angela said, people will not do anything that crosses their boundaries. All this bullshit you see in movies about I'll hypnotise that person to go and murder my unfaithful wife. Nonsense. You can't hypnotise someone to do something that they wouldn't ordinarily do in life. The suggestibility test for the stage practitioners is that this person is open to making a fool of themselves. Right? They're not bothered about it. Right? So I can engineer that. Most stage hypnotists are actually quite skillful hypnotherapists. Right? But they get a bad name because it's for entertainment. It's not for therapy. It's to make people laugh at other people making a fool of themselves, which is all very well and good, right? But I'm not too fond of it. But you can't make someone do something they don't want to do. And it's creating an environment. I call myself a facilitator, if you like, a facilitator of an environment where the person is able to, as Jennifer says, go inside and have a wee rummage about. Why am I doing this? What makes me talk that way? And then, well, this is actually a load of crap. Right? It's not helping me. Right? Okay, well, I'll do something about it. Right? Okay, let's do it. Right? So you might be able to direct a wee bit or suggest a direction of travel. But mainly, you're there to create an environment where they go and think up their own solutions to whatever it is that's troubling them. And that's avoiding the bouncer, getting inside and saying, right, I'm going to change a few things.
It's a bit of a negotiation as well, isn't it, Jennifer? Because trust is involved. It's a very intimate therapy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. When we're in that place and we're open to suggestion, we are vulnerable and we need to feel good with whoever we're willing to do that journey with. Right. And I use this for a lot of different things, including like past life therapies and things like that, but also in regular therapy through parts work and ego state and all of that. And we often, talk about, let's create a space for these parts within us to meet and have a discussion. It's all about creating safety and connection, both through co-regulation with whoever you choose to be the therapist, right? Having that connected space. And then also with the space that you create within yourself to go on that journey.
It has to be remembered as well that even therapists have a bad day. And sometimes when you're meeting up with them for the first time, they might have had a real stonker of a situation going on. And their energy might not be quite where you would like it to be. But at the same time, more often than not, they can usually get into their own trance state to make that better. It just takes, Milton Erickson, really, really famous for actually hypnotizing someone who didn't speak English at all, just by going into rapport with them and allowing them to go there themselves. It's a natural kind of state of affairs in that the mind is such an amazing thing. It's jacked into the universe. Jungian's collective consciousness situation is probably a really good example of that. And we feel like Phoebe from Friends, when we're picking ideas out of the sky from nowhere. Actually, these things are energetic, like little electric thoughts, pulses coming through. And because we are tuning in to that kind of idea, this is what I would like to know. Occasionally, when we really tune in really well, we get the idea, we get inspired by something. And that's just being open to, and we're in a trance at that point. We do so much when we're in a trance.
But the trance is kind of interchangeable with, as Jennifer says, when you're in the zone. How often have you gone and done something and you've just completely zoned out, or you're in flow state, or however you want to refer to it, and hours kind of pass and you're still sitting in the same position, doing the same thing just because you're in that state. But then it's also that aspect that we've got the zone, we've got the flow state, but it's that meditative state as well. Because a lot of times you might go into that meditative state, and that is when you're in it's all the same state, isn't it, really? It's just different names for it. And perhaps a different way in. And I've been reading some books recently a lot about psychedelics as well, when people are shortcutting it by using psychedelics. And I don't think we need to use psychedelics to get into these states.
No.
But there's a lot of people using that as well. So perhaps this is maybe a safer way of doing it.
Well, there was somebody that said to me when I was at the stall at one point, the guy was talking to me about shamanic stuff, and he said to me, so what do you use? I said, what do you mean, what do I use? He said, well, is it shrooms? Is it this? Is it that? Is it ayahuasca? Is it campo? And I was like, I don't need any of that. I've got a brain full of blooming chemicals that do that for me.
Mhm.
Absolutely not necessary to use anything like that. And the people who do use that use them for a reason, and they use them sensibly and in the right aspects. Some people do need that to get them over the bridge, but at the same time, it leaves a residue. And what they don't actually understand is a lot of people have died when they've been taking ayahuasca because of the ritualistic aspect of it hasn't been totally conserved and looked at and taken into consideration, because you have to purge before you go in there, and then you
It's
will
safer
purge
not
when
to
you've
do
got
that
it.
unless the person you're doing it with knows what they're doing.
Exactly. You have to be really, and that it really is putting your life in someone's hand. It's not just your mind, but again, it can be your mind too, because there are some people who basically we should not go there. Schizophrenia, bipolar, that kind of thing. We could be opening doors inside people's minds that we have no idea what's going to happen afterwards. So we have to be ethically responsible and find out medical history, find out their situations. And if they're not even clued in on it, if we even get the idea that this could be a possibility, whoa, let's go and talk to your doctor first before we go any further with this. Are you on any medication? Are you self-medicating?
Which it was the big one, because a lot of people think when they're filling out application forms or consultation forms, it's just what the doctor's given them, without realizing the aspects of other things too.
That's the thing about, a lot of the professions that we're in with mental health, is that there is a regulation there. We have to check. There's certain even modalities that I can't use until I've different ways. Sorry, the dogs just went nuts. Hopefully you guys seen it.
No, we can't hear it.
But the other side of it is, and this is for me, I think one of the biggest issues that comes up with all of this is that we get so dependent on these things for the experiences that we no longer try to go there on our own. And we lose that autonomy. And now all of a sudden, it's not really about me going in and having these beautiful experiences with myself. It's inducing them all of the time. And that dependency actually takes us in the wrong direction when we look at what it is we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah, people can get dependent on you as well. And it's a case of teaching them that they can do it for themselves. The self-hypnosis situation, going into a meditative state, listening to some music. It's like when you catch on to yourself, you're doing something. It's like being in the zone, and suddenly it stops, and you kind of come to, and you're like, and suddenly you lose the flow, and you're aware that everybody else is kind of going, what the hell are they doing? or you think that's what's going on. And you cannot get back to that space when you've been yanked out of it by your conscious mind going, excuse me, I don't like this. I don't like this. I want to drive this bus. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? And I think my best example was on the judo mat once, and we were doing continuous randori, which is fighting upright. And they're all men. Some of them are a lot bigger than I was. And I went in there, and I went into, I didn't even know what I was doing. I couldn't even remember. There were things were falling left, right, and centre, and I was kind of pushing things and throwing things and doing stuff. And then my friend came in and said my name, and suddenly I was on the floor. It was very shocking. But I realised that I had just exited the zone.
So note to self, when Leslie's in the zone, don't go anywhere near her.
Exactamundo. Just don't do it. Don't go there.
I think to wrap it all, you do the preamble, if you like, when you make an assessment of the subject. Right? I have a form to fill in. Do you have any medical, mental history? Blah blah blah. You're under medication, under a doctor's, etc. etc. More for kind of professional indemnity purposes, right? I want to make sure that person's fit, if you like, to go through the process. And having established that, we then take it from there. I often say to people, have you given yourself permission to enter a trance-like state for a therapeutic outcome? I've never thought of that. You're the one that allows yourself to get into a trance-like state because you want to achieve something. Stop smoking, stop biting your fingernails, get on a plane without freaking out, whatever, phobias, etc., etc. Give yourself permission to think, how would it be if I didn't have that thing or had less of that thing? Allow yourself to envisage that scenario where you're free of that thing that's annoying you. And if the process involves a trance-like state or hypnosis, if they want it, badly enough, they say, yeah, crack on, big man, as they say, and okay, let's go. And that's where the willingness, the connection, the rapport, the empathy, the energy exchange becomes critical, in that when you're in that hypnotic state for both parties, great things can be achieved. And again, sometimes I wonder, how did that happen? Our clients will say, how did that happen? I say, I have no idea. Was it good? Yeah, it's great. That's fine then.
Yeah, it's that question. How did you do that? I didn't do anything. I'm just like the direction person. You know, you can go this way, you can go that way, you choose which way you want to go. Then whatever happens is up to you. Because I'm not inside your head.
I think that's one of the beauties and the simplicities of this type of work, is that we might be directing them into getting to there. But then once they're in that state, it's them that decides. It's a choose your own adventure. And when you get that result and you get that, oh my gosh, you've changed my life, you're like going, did I? Awesome. Wasn't me. And I think it is that point that as long as we remember to check our egos at the door, the amount of benefit clients can have from what we do is just mind-blowing.
All we're doing is holding space. And that psychological safety is really, really important. Because if someone feels psychologically safe, it's amazing what they can do.
Absolutely. I always love it when we're going through a session with a client, they're like, oh, yeah. I'm like, I just held that space for you to get there. I didn't do that.
Yeah, how did you know to go there? I didn't tell you about that. How did you know about that? I don't know, because I don't know what that is, because it's in your head and you've not verbalized it. So I've got no clue what happened there.
Sometimes if you're being really wicked, though, you can actually let them think. Okay. How did you... You did that, didn't you? Did I? I don't know.
See, I'm not as evil as you.
Oh, but sometimes it just depends. I don't do it all the time, but with people I really know very well, I can sometimes do that.
The facilitation of the safe space is they make connections. They start at one point and then, oh, there's a connection to someone else. and then something that might be entirely separate from what they started out with. But you get to that point, and Jennifer says, they go, oh, the light bulb moment, the epiphany, oh, that's possible. I can do that. Mm-hmm. I can get there. Mm-hmm. And they've got there by themselves. It just, maybe we could say we've just pushed the start button, right, or turned the key in the ignition, and then off you go.
It's allowing them to understand their own neuroplasticity, to understand that they can rewire their brains themselves. All they have to do is kind of find the right button, take that away and slip it over there a little bit. And in the old days, we used to call it strategies. You used to change strategies for people. But now we understand that with the neuroplasticity that's going on, all the neural pathways that we can actually, well, it's like, you learn you learn a language a long, long time ago, you don't use it, it kind of goes away into the backwater and you don't even think about it unless you're actively trying to keep it up. That neural pathway just goes, you don't need me anymore, I'll just retire.
Well, you say that, but it's always there. Because how often have you heard a song that you've not heard in 20, 30 years and you can remember every single word to it? It does come back for a lot of things. Not everything.
Yeah.
But with the right prompting, all these things can come back as well. So you do like your big words, Leslie. Go and explain to us what neuroplasticity is.
Neuroplasticity is the ability of the neurons firing in the brain when we have thoughts all the time. We have habitual thoughts, so we have neural pathways in the brain. So and I think that one of the things is that the neurons that fire together wire together. So you have like fallen trees inside your...
I'm not quite sure how to help you with that.
Alexa just woke up. You just woke up, Alexa. I've just realised that's the noise I'm hearing. Wow. Anyway, that was a bit weird. I didn't know there was one of them in here. So, when we have all this stuff in our brains, all these little crinkly bits that we have that make us so intelligent, because it's the surface area that we're dealing with. The more surface area we have, the more neurons we have to be able to fire and to wire together. So, habitual, we learn things from our parents, but if we're open and curious and we have peers that come in and say, well, what do you think that is? And how does that work? And da-da-da. Then you actually start to think and say, oh, I wonder if I could. I wonder if that would work. And then when you start doing it, the more you do it, the more rigid and the more these will wire together and will become an actual path. But it's a bit like going through the jungle. If you're the first guy in the queue with the machete, you're going to have to do all the work. But everybody else who comes after that has got a nice highway to go through. But you still have to do the work to begin with. So neuroplasticity is about the brain's ability to change your mind. So everybody's got a brain. It's always possible. Okay. Alexa doesn't have a brain. She was still trying to help. That was an example of someone's neural pathway. Somebody thought, oh, I wonder if I could put a little thing in somebody's house, and every time they said something, it would come up and say, I'm not quite sure how to help you with that. I hate technology.
I'm assuming, just as a point, Leslie is not in her own home, so this is not Leslie's device that she's put there and forgotten about, just in case anyone's confused.
I didn't know. I mean, this is one thing. It's 7:05 every night. This thing goes bing bong, and I've no idea why, and I've no idea where it is. It's just that it's in disguise somewhere. I'm not going to have to go and look for it because it's in disguise. I cannot see it anywhere. I had no idea it was here.
So we now know how Leslie's spending the rest of her day.
Yes.
Hunting for
I'll be in the zone.
Well,
in the zone looking for something.
Yeah, and we know learning a new skill, solving puzzles, like all of those kind of things, even moving the body can all help with neuroplasticity. So you're going to do some activities today that are going to help with that.
Yes, but do I really want to? I mean, it already rules people's lives so much.
I think that's when we get into the very set way, though, that it ends up ruling everything, right? But the more neuroplasticity we have, the more in that observer space we can be, and the less it actually runs the show.
Yeah. It's like I find it very difficult in the car because I like to drive the car. I don't like the car to drive me. And I think that's
And
got a
more
lot to
cars
do.
these days likes to drive us than the other way around.
Yes, I know. And I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I'm a control freak. I do not like these things.
So perhaps you could use one of us to help you clear that control freakery to get to a point where it doesn't bother you as much.
But the thing is, it serves me quite well.
So therefore, you're not open to that change. You quite like it.
No. You see, this is it. This is an example of when we have people coming to us who are saying, I want to stop smoking, but actually it serves them not to stop in some way. It doesn't have to be a healthy thing, because of course we know it's not that healthy to not stop smoking. And that basically, yeah, there's all that stuff that happens and it gets, ugh. However, there's something about the act of smoking that serves them. It could be an identity thing. It could be they don't want to lose their friends thing. It could be maybe, well, when I smoked, it was a case of by the time it took me to get the cigarette out of the packet and light it, I had stopped wanting to kill someone.
But it's
Yeah,
that with anything. So Willie mentioned the fear of flying. There could be a reason why someone doesn't want to get on a plane. And whether it's because they've watched the A-Team and all the stuff that went with that, or it could be that financially, if the thought of flying somewhere and doing whatever means, well, that's not a good thing. Or it could be down to the concept of they couldn't go for the 3 hours on a plane without having a cigarette, so I'm going to be scared of it. And then I can use that as the excuse and not the smoking as the excuse. And
Well,
there's
I
so many things that we do that is benefiting us, even if we don't really think about what the benefit is.
I had the conversation the other day there. In fact, it was just last weekend, and I said this person said, "Oh, I can't stand flying. I've got to go to Tenerife. I can't stand it. Can't stand flying." I said, "Well, I could help you with that. We've worked before. I could help you with that." No, 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 no. I enjoy getting drunk at the bar before I go on the plane. I
I
said,
had
"Really?
a
They
cli-
let you on when you're drunk?" He said, "Oh yeah."
I had a client like that who had a fear of flying, and his only way to get on the plane was to have several large gins and medication, so that as soon as he stepped on the plane, sat down, he was totally unconscious, right?
Mm.
And he'd been playing football with his son, had twisted his knee, and he had a couple of drinks and medication because of the pain in his knee, and he stumbled as he walked up the stairs on the flight, and they weren't going to let him on the plane. And he
Mm.
explained, hurt my knee, blah, blah, blah. And eventually they let him on the plane on the strict proviso that he was not allowed any alcohol. So he had to sit for the 3 hour flight or whatever it was, um, more or less stone cold sober. And it was not pleasant, he told me. When we drilled down into it, what was the reason for your fear of flying? It was a loss of control. He's not in charge of the plane. He's not in charge of his own destiny. That's the pilot's job. And it was that absence of control or that lack of control that used to drive him nuts, basically. And once we'd go over that, saying, look, that 5 year old laddie sitting across here couldn't give a toss. He's quite happy. That person there's fine. Just we did some other stuff until he eventually said, yeah, okay. And he wasn't a control freak. Oh, not really. But we had to get over the taking five large gins and a lot of tramadol before you get on the plane because it's not healthy. But it's like give yourself permission to envisage a flight without booze, without medication, where you can actually sit and talk to your wife and your son throughout the journey and then get off at the other end without a hangover, without feeling like shit. Yeah, okay. And eventually got there in the end.
Well, it's so interesting, right? We're talking about hypnosis and all of that, and it's amazing how we kind of hypnotize ourselves time and time again with the way that we condition our own brains to think that we need something or that we need something to be a certain way. And then that just becomes its own perpetuating cycle where we just continue the same behaviors and it reinforces the fear or the anxiety. And we don't even realize that we've just done that to ourselves.
Yeah, and we don't understand why we can't stop it. We can, but we just don't believe we can. I mean, another one of Milton Erickson's great sayings was, "We are always more than we think we are." But we only think what we are because of what we're taught to think. How other people's opinions and ideas and expectations form our strategies for life and how we live and how we go. And it's only the odd time that the blinkers come off and you go, "Oh, look at that over there. Wow, what is that?" Or we go, "Oh, look at that over there. Oh no, don't go there. No." And that's conditioning. So if you can be conditioned that way, you can be conditioned to not be that way. But you just have to want to do it. And to commit to it as well.
I think I like Willie's way. It's not just the want, it's the giving yourself permission to do it. It's okay to go there.
Yeah. And the thing is that sometimes, and I've heard people say it. Somebody said to me, "Oh, I'd love to come to you for a session," and one of their mates has said, "What for? What do you want to go do that for? It's crap." That's an idiotic thing to do. And as soon as they say that, that person's ego's like going, "Oh no, you can't do that because you won't be this and you won't be that." It's like, oh, come on, be a unique human being. Understand you have all this power. Let's go there. Why not?
But isn't that an interesting aspect as well as to how much we're allowing our friends and our family to hypnotize us into not doing things? Because all they're doing is they're putting their thoughts onto us and we're susceptible to taking on, whether it's peer pressure, whether it's "I don't want to look like a fool," whatever that construct is, it's somebody else's opinions and thoughts, not ours.
It's a question of mind over matter, right? Other people can try and impose their opinions and views on you, but I don't mind because their opinions don't matter. Because I have my own mind, and as Leslie said, I'm a unique human being. There's only one Willie Nicol. There could be a chant in there somewhere, right? And anyone's opinions of me or views of me, right, I don't care. I generally do not care. I don't want to be unpleasant or be ostracised, but the mind over matters. I don't mind what you think of me because what you think of me does not matter to me. And if we adopt that mindset, if you like, it's very liberating. You don't have to be nasty or unpleasant. Just say, "You know what, I'm not taking that on. I'm not absorbing your unpleasant opinions because I'm happy with who I am." It's just a thought.
Yeah, we can be mesmerised. Who was the guy who stood in front, had people standing on stages for hours and hours as he threw these magnetic waves from his hands towards them. And actually, they were just bored stiff. And that was the first hypnotic trance situation. They went somewhere else because they didn't want to be there anymore. And this idea of dissociation and being in dissociative states is something that comes quite naturally to us. You can jump out your skin with fright. You can be in a dwam and be off travelling down the little lanes of wonderful companies and countries and things with, walking an elephant down the road if you want to. It's up to you, whatever's in your head, whatever you think. But thoughts are things that become themselves and will make your life what you are experiencing. If you want to experience something else, then you have to kind of change your mind. To change your mind, you change your thought. Patterns. Everything we do has got to do with patterns. It's all got to do with these little things that you do this, that happens, we do that, that happens. We like that. That's how we get to be control freaks sometimes. Because when that happens, this has got to happen. It's got to happen or I'm not going to be happy. But then happiness is also not absolutely dependent on one thing happening after another. That can just be boredom. So, hypnosis is a big subject. Trance. We're all in one. Some of us are in better ones than others. But all our collective trances make our reality. So the next time you're thinking about dissing something because you don't know what it is, or that you really like to change something, on the one hand you think it would be really good, on the other hand maybe not. Jennifer talked about that. Bring those two parts together and guess what can happen? Change. So, next time you think that you have no capacity to go into trance at all, just notice when you go to turn the television over and suddenly your hand stops and you're left there holding the remote control until something happens and you switch back on again. I'll leave you with that thought. See you next time.